A couple videos ago, you guys saw me working on this fence here in the corral, and I got, you know, from about here back, looks pretty good. But today I want to tackle the rest of it because this is actually probably the worst part of the fence. And I'm not repairing this in such a way that I think it's going to last for years and years. This is just a temporary fix to get me through the rest of this year. If you're new, then I will just let you know the plan with this fence is to replace it all with pipe, but that's not going to be able to happen this year. It's going to have to wait until next summer. Basically, I just need to find a way to limp this thing along to the finish line. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. My goal is to lift this old panel up without damaging it because I might want to reuse it. If not here, then certainly somewhere else. But the problem is that it's partially buried in the ground here, so I'm not sure what's going to happen when I start lifting on it. I do need to get it out of the way because it's going to be in my way as I try to work on this fence. So if we ruin it, we ruin it, but you know, here's hoping. The panel wasn't stuck in the ground nearly as bad as I thought it was, so it survived that relatively unscathed. Nice. The way I got it figured is this fence will be challenged in one of two ways, or possibly two of two ways. The two things that the cattle will do is they will either try to jump over it, and I think adding another board to the top here to make it a little bit taller should hopefully cure that. Generally speaking, like a low fence like this, if a cow can easily get her chin over it, she will try to jump. And I think she knows it. She won't like clear it, but she can at least get her front legs over it, and then the weight of her body will crush the rest and she'll be off. So by putting another board a little bit taller, you make it harder for her to get her chin over, and that basically translates in her mind to thinking, not worth trying. The other thing that will happen is that as the cattle approach the entrance to the trailer loading alleyway, they might have a tendency to stop right here, decide that they're not ready to give it a try yet, turn around and go back the other way. And by doing that, a lot of times what will happen is as they turn, they hit this fence with their hip and then head back the other way. Now, usually hitting it with their hip won't like totally knock the whole thing down, but it will crack boards, it will push posts over and make a future breakout more likely. So what I'm getting around to saying is there's a pretty long span right here with no post for some reason, and I think I've got to add one. I've already spent about $40 on the new boards for that fence, and I'm really not wanting to spend any more than that because, as I've mentioned several times, I'm just going to be tearing all this down in less than a year. So there's not really a lot of reason that I see to put a lot of time in. Well, I'm going to put a lot of time into it, but a lot of money into it. Fortunately, I've got my little boneyard of old posts that I pulled out. These used to be on this corral fence here, and it looks like I saved the ones that were still halfway decent. So we'll grab one of these guys and it ought to work fine. As I'm carrying this post down here, I'm just thinking about how I really didn't want to spend that much time on this, to actually take the time to hook the digger up to the tractor, dig the hole, put a new post in. Yeah, it adds a lot to this project, but the reason why I'm just gonna go ahead and do it is because I keep thinking about, well, what happens if you're loading cattle and they break that fence down, and now you've got to take the time to go catch them. Potentially, if they get in with the calves, you've got to separate them all again. You'll have to end up fixing the fence anyway to get them into the trailer to finish whatever I was starting to do in the first place. So a little bit more time now will potentially save a lot more time later. Well, that didn't really go exactly like I hoped it would, but honestly, the fence is not that much worse than it was before. So once we get the new post in here, and I'll have to do something, because this post is completely broken off, but it was already broken off. We'll probably end up doing some sort of like triangle brace here to hold this one up, and then hopefully between that and the new post and a couple new boards up here, maybe it'll work. Well, things are definitely starting to look a little bit better, and as we kind of walk through and test this out, you can see we got a little bit of movement here because this post is gone, but we do have the new post right next to it. It's a little bit loose at the moment just because I just put it in the ground. It should tighten up a little bit. The worst part is this corner here. This post is completely rotted off, and I'm sure when I was lifting the digger up and it caught the board and it kind of lifted the whole fence off, that probably didn't help anything either. So I think I already said that my plan was to do like a triangular brace here to stiffen this up, but now I'm kind of thinking that once I put the bulls in here, having the brace like that, that just invites them to get their head underneath it and lift it up and break it off. Actually, this one right here on the ground, that's why that is the way it is. It used to be a triangle brace on this post, and the steers, or whoever it was, broke it off. So anyway, what I'm getting around to saying is I've got the post hole digger right here. I think what I'm gonna do is just dig a hole right behind this post, and then I'm gonna grab one of these other old posts and just stick it in the ground right next to this one, so that when they push on this corner, if they push on this corner, they're not just pushing on this broken off post, but they're actually pushing on something that has a little bit of strength to it. Well, there's that. It's definitely not pretty, but it's a lot better than it was before. So I am actually starting to feel like this is going well. It's you know, the focus here is function, and that's really what we're starting to achieve. I've got a nice solid railroad tie post here, another one right next to it. These are not rotten. In fact, these would probably last for several more years. This post is a little bit rotten, but I've got the pipe braced up against it here, and it actually makes it pretty strong. So we might just leave that pipe there until I need to use it somewhere else. I've got another solid railroad tie here. This post is rotten. This is the one that we just put in, and then this is the reinforcement post that we just put in. So these posts are all about 4 feet apart down here on this end, and they, I think, are actually, dare I say, fairly strong. So I think I'm actually, I guess, happy with the posts now, and the issue that really remains here is some of these boards. Like this one is really rotten and almost impossible to nail up to the post just because it's rotted out all around where it would nail on. In fact, this is one that I probably should have just replaced, but I didn't get a 2x8 to put in this section. So I think what I will do is try to run down to the junk pile and see if I can't salvage a couple of boards that I took down from the old fence. And rather than replace this board that's here, I think I want to just take those salvage boards and put them up in between to make this almost more like a solid wall than a rail fence. What I have noticed in the steel corral is that anywhere where I've hung up sheet metal, they don't even challenge it because they can't see through it. There's no incentive for them to try to like stick their heads through because they can't. Because this is a fence that we do not want them to challenge because they would probably come out on top, I think filling in these gaps is the smart way to go. Well, it wouldn't be digging through a junk pile if we didn't have some big old bull thistles to contend with, now would it? Wish me luck. Long enough. 20. What do you think, Callie? Not too bad, huh? Well, I got a few here that actually aren't that bad. I figure I need at minimum 2 16-footers or whatever combination of partial boards that would equal that. So if these two are 16s, these will be perfect, but I've got these others that are fairly decent as well. So I'm not gonna haul them down there right now, but I will leave them on the side of the junk pile so that if I do need them in the future, they're a little bit easier for me to get. All right, they are 16s, so let's haul them down there. This board has got quite a twist to it, and I'm hoping that if I just sort of put the screws in, you know, down the line as I go, that it'll kind of start to straighten itself out, but we'll see. If it does end up having a big bow in it, it's not really the end of the world. Just as long as it fills that gap, that's mostly what I need it to do. Grab my shovel. And let's there we go. Well, I gotta say it, I'm loving how this looks, and now with a mostly solid wall here, I just feel like the rest of this alleyway is too open. And when you have like a closed off area like what we just built, and then you've got these boards here with bigger gaps in between them, I feel like that almost encourages the cattle to now challenge this down here, because it is the weakest part of the fence and they can see that. So I think I'm just gonna do that thing that I always do and overbuild the heck out of this. We'll go ahead and try to find enough lumber to fill the gaps down here and also here, especially this one actually, because these boards down here are not great. So it would be to my advantage to do something down here anyway. But yeah, I think let's do this. This board ought to fit right there. Oh yeah, look at that. I've got one more. I think this is a 12-footer here, and then those other boards that I pulled out of the junk pile. So I'm gonna go grab those, and I think between them and this one, I'll have enough to do this. Well, there's only one obvious weak spot now down here at the end, so we've gone this far. Let's just take care of it too. I gotta tell you, this got out of hand. This is a lot more work than I had originally planned on doing. But I found myself in a situation of a little bit more work makes it a lot better, time and time again, and well, now this is what we got. In fact, I'm so happy with how this turned out, I'm starting to think that I could probably get several years out of this, which I kind of hate saying that, because I've been telling you guys time and time again that this is getting replaced. But now that it's in fairly decent condition, I'm thinking that I would probably be smarter to focus my efforts on a couple of other spots in the corral that are worse than what this now is. One being this post here going all the way down to the loading chute, and the other being where I've got all these portable panels. I've been wanting to replace this with permanent fencing for a while, because these panels are just, you know, farm store brand, and they are paper thin, and basically if a cow sneezes on them, they bend. And I've also been wanting to build a permanent fence from this post back, and then have a selector gate or a divider gate, so that when cows leave the squeeze chute, I can send them either into the big corral or bring them right back around here and into the trailer. You guys have seen me do this in the past with portable panels, and it's always a little iffy as to whether or not the panels are gonna be sufficient enough to do what I need them to do. So yeah, this, you know, it opens up options if nothing else. And I mean, this just, it looks pretty good now. I kind of like it. It's got a lot of character with the old boards, and you know, it just kind of looks like an old-fashioned corral, which I don't know, I like. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the transformation of the fence here, because originally when I was planning out this video, my thought was to like fix this up real quick and then bring the bulls in, get weights on them, and put them out here in the little field. But like I say, this kind of got away from me and took a lot longer than I had planned on. But I got no regrets, because I'm pretty happy with what it is now. So probably do the bulls in the next video that you see, or you know, at least one coming up soon. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.